welcome to Baking and Books. My name is Lexi and I'm an amateur baker who loves to read. So each week I post videos on myself attempting to bake something new while also talking about a book that I have recently read or just really love. Today I am going to be making double chocolate pecan brownie. I haven't really ever made brownies, I don't think, like on my channel. I've obviously made box brownies like 100 times, but I don't think I've ever made any on my channel. So this sounded good, sounded fairly easy, and I thought it would just be a nice thing to have on this wonderful afternoon. We're also going to be talking about Apt Pupil by Stephen King. This was a really enjoyable book, very dark, classic Stephen King, but a really good book, so I'm excited to get into it with you guys today. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. One of my aunts got me this apron around Christmas time, so I think it's a little bit big for me, but hey, I finally have an apron, which you guys know is something that I don't typically use. I just let myself get messy. So, you know, hey, we're moving up in the world. I feel like I need somebody to explain to me how aprons work because this is just not working for me, I feel like. Okay, well, maybe this is why I don't use aprons, because I'm stupid. Alright, well, we're just gonna make it work. Anyway, let's start with a synopsis. This is actually a very easy synopsis because it's hard to do a synopsis without giving too much away. And the book is incredible, so I don't want to give too much away. But basically, Todd is this young boy who kind of, I guess you could say, befriends an old man in his neighborhood. And they kind of strike up like a surprising friendship. But basically, Todd knows something about this older man, and he's honestly like blackmailing this guy for information. And this old man just kind of has to take it because what he knows, what Todd knows, could be like this old man's downfall. And that's pretty much it. Todd and this man have a weird friendship, honestly based off of blackmail. So it's very classic Stephen King horror-esque, but more in the sense of like realistic horror. I don't really know how else to explain that, but like it's not about like fictionalized monsters and things like that. It's very like human monsters and horror sort of stuff. So if you don't want things spoiled for you, but you want to see how my baking turns out, then go ahead and skip forward until it says no more spoilers, and you can just see how the brownies came out. But if you've already read this book or you just genuinely don't care, then stay with me. We'll dive deeper into the book and continue on our baking. So honestly, the first thing I wrote down was, I think it's the older gentleman of whom I honestly don't remember his name. But I think he makes an interesting comment on war in general, because I think it's right at the beginning, and he's talking about how like when it comes to the Holocaust and it comes to World War II in general, obviously like the Nazis or those who fought on the side of the Germans were considered the bad guys. They're the villains. But he makes an interesting comment how like the good guys still killed people. The good guys still held prisoners of war and did all of these things, and how like it's an interesting commentary, I think, on the fact that history definitely favors the winners. And I'm not saying that like the people, because obviously this old man's whole thing is that he was a Nazi, but like I'm not saying that they should be pitied or that they were the good guys and we learned the wrong thing of history. But I think it's just an interesting comment on the fact that like war is still war, and you're still killing people. You still might accidentally kill innocent people. You're not perfect if you're involved in war, whether you're doing it for the right reasons or not. And I think it's a very sticky subject for a lot of people. So I thought it was really interesting commentary so early on in the book. Okay, as you can see, I'm gonna give my mixer another try. Because I think I just used the wrong attachment. I'm gonna try this attachment in hopes that stuff won't get like caught up in it. That's my hope anyway. But I do think I am gonna melt my butter all the way down before I put it in there, just because I just like it better. I was definitely really curious right from the start though, because I feel like I couldn't figure out where this was going. Like I couldn't figure out like what exactly is it that Todd wants. Like is he just trying to punish this guy, like by making him relive all of these old traumas of the war? Or is it that he's like actually fascinated and it's gonna end up really badly? Like, I just couldn't figure out exactly where it was going, but I was suspicious of Todd for sure and suspicious of them both. But it was kind of a really interesting mystery because I feel like otherwise, without this mystery, I feel like you wouldn't really understand why you would keep reading the story. But because you don't know where it's going or why it's headed in that direction, it keeps you guessing. I definitely thought that as we got a little bit further into the story, and I definitely started worrying about Todd a little bit more, I definitely thought he was going to kill that wino the first time that he runs into him under the bridge or under the overpass or whatever it is. I definitely for sure thought he was going to kill him. And it was kind of interesting that he didn't. At least not like right in that moment. But I for sure, I think at that point started losing my faith in Todd and the fact that he could pull himself out of this at all. I think it's also interesting to talk about like how Todd came to be this way. Like I can understand being fascinated by history, and I think a lot of us are, and especially when it comes to war, I think it's just natural to be a little bit curious about war and where all that stuff comes from, and kind of like why everything turned out the way it did. But I think that this is sort of a different kind of fascination. Like I don't think that Todd's fascination with this is normal. I don't know that the rest of us would hold this man basically hostage and make him retell his glory days in the war and as being a Nazi if Todd weren't a little bit messed up. And it kind of just makes me wonder, like, where does that come from? I mean, does it come from, like, something that happened to him that we just don't know about? Does it come from, like, I don't know, it seems one of those things where it's like, he probably was already fucked on day one. Like, he just was born a psychopath. Or maybe a sociopath? No, I think probably a psychopath. I think it is strange what our brains can remember and what they can't. You know, like, sometimes we sit there and we're like, gosh, I don't even remember what I had for breakfast. But then other times, like, with this older man, you know, he sits there and he remembers all of these really terrible things that happened while, you know, he was in the service. And he can recount them, like, as if they were yesterday. And like, just perfectly. And I think it's really interesting what sticks with us and what doesn't. And I know at first, like, he's really reluctant to remember. But then I think he kind of wants, as he wants to remember more, he finds himself able to remember more. It's kind of like what's blocking his memories oftentimes is whether he wants to or not. I feel like I definitely chose the right utensil this time. This is definitely the stir it up utensil, but it wants me to be at low speed and it's taken forever. Working on my patience still. Okay, I think we got good batter now. I think the thing that really fascinated me about this book and a lot of stories like this is I think it makes a comment on that we all have darkness in us that I know we don't always want to think about or talk about, but it's true. I mean, we're not perfect human beings and we make mistakes. And I know you may be sitting there thinking, okay, well, yeah, but I've never been a Nazi. Well, yeah, I mean, good for you. That's a great thing. If you have been a Nazi, turn yourself in and go to prison. Also, how are you still alive? But whatever. Those are other questions for other days. But I just mean that, you know, we're not perfect human beings. We make mistakes. We make choices based on selfishness, you know, and we look at others with a lot of judgment oftentimes. It's happening a lot in our world right now, you know, where we look at others and we think, how could they possibly do something like this? How could they not do something about the problem that we face or whatever it is that means a lot to us? And I think we often forget that we're all human beings and we're all capable of good things, but we're also all capable of bad things. And I'm not saying that there aren't people out there who maybe are a little bit more dangerous than others and who, you know, have those thoughts because there's maybe something chemically wrong with them. Obviously, there are. But I do think it's an interesting commentary, and I think it would do us a lot of good sometimes for our own souls. I guess if you really care about your soul. If you don't care, then, you know, this point doesn't matter. But I just mean, I think a lot about sometimes, I know we covered this with my episode, or whatever you want to call these, on Orange is the New Black, when we were talking about the prison system and all that. And I think what often happens, and it happens to me too, like, I'm not blaming you, I'm not blaming just society, but I think what often happens is it's so easy for us to look at people and automatically condemn them for one reason or another. You know, because they've done something bad, and we feel like they should be punished for it. And I think that's a natural human reaction to people doing bad things. And I don't think it makes us necessarily bad people to imagine that. But I do think it's something that we need to be careful of, because I think it stems a lot of hate towards other human beings. And I think it leads us on a path of darkness in ourselves that maybe we don't often want to recognize. I think at the end of the day, it's okay to forgive. Even when somebody has done something really, really awful, I think it's okay to forgive sometimes and just move on with life and maybe let them move on with their life. I'm not saying there shouldn't be consequences for your actions, but I don't remember exactly what point it was in the book. I finally, because of the holidays and getting COVID, I was finally able to catch up on my reading. So it's been honestly probably a month since I've read this book, so I can't remember exactly where it was in the book, but it just wasn't. I just think it's an interesting comment on the light and the dark in all of us, and I think how we choose to respond to everything in life really is the kind of people that we most often are. And I think when you let the darkness get in too deep, that's when problems start to happen. But I think if you try to see the positive and you try to forgive and you try to move forward even when bad things happen, I think those are the people that are often the happiest. All right, so here is this. It's a very thick batter, but it does taste good. I sprinkled some pecans and chocolate chips on top as instructed. So now it's gonna go into the oven and we'll see what happens. All right, look what came out of the oven. I feel like the chocolate chips didn't melt like I thought they were going to. Like, why would you not just put the chocolate chips in the batter? Oh well, we'll figure it out. Okay, so my last thing as I cut this up and serve it, I was pretty happy with the outcome though. I felt like I know I just got over this whole big spiel about how, we need to be careful of our souls and things like that, but I really feel like I was pleased with the fact that both of them just ended up dead. Nobody has to deal with whatever ridiculousness anymore. The only bad thing is I do feel bad for Todd's parents, just because they're so clueless to this whole thing, which I really don't think is their fault. A lot of times I feel like it's easy to blame the parents, how did they not know he was running around, hanging with this old man talking about the Holocaust, but they genuinely thought he was just reading to him, developing this friendship. That's a cute thing for a kid to do, and the fact that he continued it as a teenager probably just made them feel good about themselves and the choices they'd made in parenting. So really they're the ones I feel bad for, because I feel like Todd manipulated them all of these years, and then all of a sudden he's dead, and he's dead because he lost in a shootout with the police because he was up there killing people driving by. So probably not great for them. All right, it's a little crumbly, but here we go. Cute, right? Oh, I should probably invite people back. Okay, if you left because of spoilers, go ahead and come back and join us. Our stuff went into the oven and it's very cute and it came out, so we're gonna taste it. I'm a little nervous. It looks a little dry, but okay, there it comes. It's almost just like when you first put it in your mouth, there's no taste, which really threw me off. It's like you really have to chew to let your taste buds settle. Well, I mean, it is a brownie. Maybe I should have put more pecans on top. Or maybe I should take a bite with the pecan in it. Yeah, probably what should have happened is I probably was supposed to put pecans and chocolate chips more evenly spread throughout the top. But it said sprinkle on top, so I wasn't sure how much or how little to put. And I think maybe the chocolate chips is probably fine because you're already making a chocolate brownie. But I think with the pecans, I definitely would have put more of them on. Because when you take a bite with a pecan, you definitely get that sense of oh, this is a specialized brownie and not just a regular brownie. So, new year, new grading system. I'm going to say this was a medium success, a 7 out of 10. I think it's definitely a brownie. It cooked all the way, no problems there. But I will say that there needed to be a lot more pecans spread around the top. That way when I baked it, you would get a bite of pecan pretty much every single time you took a bite. Because right now it's really, you're just eating brownie. So I'm going to say 7 out of 10. As for the recipe, I guess that's really on me. So recipe is probably 10 out of 10, but I'm going to wait to hold judgment until I make it again someday and put more pecans on top. If you have any other recipes you want to send me, please feel free to do so. I'm always looking for new recipes, and I did get a cool new recipe book for Christmas. So I'm very excited about that, and it definitely helps me to be able to find stuff every week. That's where this came from. But I'm always willing to try new things, especially if it's something like really special to you, to your family, to your culture. I would love to give that a try if you don't mind. So send me those in the comments. I highly recommend this book. It's really, really good. I realized as I was talking about it, I don't know if I really got that across how much I enjoyed reading it. It's something very dark, but something very different. Something that was unique, I think, even to the Stephen King world. I mean, it had a lot of his signature stuff in there, but it also had a lot of really unique life perspectives, and just the story was something that I feel like I hadn't really read before. And that's what I always kind of look for, you know, in a good book, because I want it to be something that catches me by surprise, something unique that I haven't felt like I've read a dozen times before. So I feel like this is one of those books. Now, it is dark, and it is a little gruesome, so, you know, you have to be careful going into Stephen King books. If that's not your thing, definitely avoid this. But if it's something that you think that you would like, if you're a Stephen King fan, I highly recommend this book. If you want, you can follow me on Instagram. That's where I typically post what I'm currently reading. I am a little bit ahead of myself, thankfully. I think I said that a little bit earlier, but some people might not have caught it. I finally got ahead of myself due to the holidays and having COVID, and I was finally able to kind of get a couple of books ahead so that I'm not constantly scrambling to finish my books every single week. But I do have some new and exciting things coming up in the next couple of weeks, and I always post what I'm reading, so if you want to follow along and try to read with me, then you totally can. Just follow me on Instagram. And of course, you can follow me on all social media, although really my Instagram is my baking stuff. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. If you had a good time, please like and subscribe. I try to be here for you every week, and it's always a little bit of fun and a little bit of a hot mess. So if you enjoyed today, then you'll probably enjoy every week. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me today, and I'll see you guys next time.